The hallway is sterile and still, humming faintly with the fluorescent hum of government lighting, the kind that flattens every shadow and makes time feel like it's not moving. It's past midnight, but the courthouse does not sleep. Not tonight. Somewhere behind the heavy oak double doors, a voice drones through legal scripture, syllables falling like slow rain. But here in the corridor, the world holds its breath. Will Smith stands alone, flanked by two silent attorneys who've learned that stillness is more useful than words. He stares straight ahead, not at the doors, but through them. His suit is midnight charcoal, tailored but rumpled now, the collar slightly askew, as if even the fabric knows tonight isn't for performance. In his right hand, the fingers twitch. Just once. Just enough to betray him. The motion crawls up his wrist like static. A low murmur breaks from behind the doors. It isn't loud, but it carries like thunder through a church. A name is being read aloud. Not a headline, not a lyric. A name heavy with silence. A name that used to get people invited and now makes them leave the room. Will doesn't move, but his pupils dilate, a slow, involuntary dilation, like a man remembering something he promised himself he'd forget. He takes one breath, then another, smaller. He raises his hand toward the door. He stops. The wood feels heavier than it should, or maybe it's just memory pressing against the grain. Behind him, a camera clicks. Flash. A single photo captured in blur. Not the kind that ends up on Instagram, but the kind that ends up in evidence. Then he speaks, not to the lawyers, not to the camera. Maybe not even out loud. He said, "If I ever spoke, the world would burn." A silence follows that line. Not shocked, not dramatic, but respectful. Like a funeral procession passing through a town too tired to cry. There's no lightning bolt, no sudden gasp. When the document is unsealed, it happens without fanfare, as though the truth, when finally spoken aloud, chooses to arrive quietly. The courtroom is hushed, save for the soft shuffle of paper sliding from a manila folder. A clerk, calm and indifferent, places it on the judge's bench like it's any other motion in any other civil suit. But it isn't. The file had been sealed for over a decade, redacted, buried, and quietly mentioned only in whispers behind doors that lock from the inside. Until tonight. Now it lies open. The name appears in crisp black ink, no longer hidden, no longer coded under pseudonyms or legal shorthand. Combs, Sean Combs. The room doesn't gasp. It goes still, like oxygen has been politely removed. Like everyone, every lawyer, every bailiff, every silent observer in tailored suits, suddenly forgot how to blink. Even the judge pauses, just half a beat too long, before resuming. She doesn't look up. She doesn't need to. A courtroom journalist, seated in the second row, looks up from his tablet, slowly, cautiously, as if afraid that what he read was wrong. An assistant next to him, her pen mid-sentence, never finishes the word. A bailiff shifts his weight but doesn't move. The moment hangs with the precision of a blade suspended above glass. Will Smith doesn't flinch. His posture is still perfect, upright, shoulders even, chin forward. But his eyes betray him. They flicker. A flash of heat, then something else beneath it. Not fear, older than fear. The expression of a man who has spent too many years pretending to forget. Across the aisle, a woman's lips part. She mouths a word, then bites it back. Her nails drum nervously against a leather notepad. No one else speaks. The judge continues. Allegations consistent with a pattern of coercion, surveillance, and long-term psychological control across multiple individuals and spanning over a decade. Each syllable lands with the weight of lead. The kind of language written by lawyers who've read too much darkness and now speak in shadows. There is no outburst, no legal objection, no angry denial from a defense team, because no one is here to deny it. At the very back of the courtroom, someone whispers just a little too loudly, loud enough for it to stick. Diddy blackmailed him? It's not a question. Not really. It's a confirmation wearing a question's clothes. Will does not look back, but his eyes close just for a second. And when they open, they're wet. Not from tears, but from something raw, something more dangerous. The kind of grief that comes not from loss, but from endurance. The judge, still composed, still unshaken, glances toward the plaintiff's table. Her voice softens, almost imperceptibly, when she asks the next procedural question. But by then, the story has already changed. The name has been read. The walls remember now. Malibu, July 2004. The Pacific hums in the distance, unseen beyond the edge of the cliffside property, where moonlight folds into ocean mist like breath against silk. A coastal breeze pulls at the lanterns strung between stone columns. It's not a party so much as a statement, an after-hours cathedral of money, fame, and carefully curated chaos. The after-party for Robot has slipped past midnight, but the estate is still pulsing. No one checks the time. Time doesn't exist here, not in rooms like this. Candlelight warms the air, flickering against the sleek lines of glassware and the shimmer of dresses. The music, bass heavy but distant, rolls like thunder behind velvet curtains. Celebrities drift between clusters like ghosts in designer clothing, their laughter too loud, their silences too long. Everyone is someone. No one is real. Sean Combs, Diddy, doesn't walk. He glides. Through bodies, past flirtations, behind secrets. He is everywhere and nowhere. His hand stays on shoulders a second too long. He speaks in riddles, never commands. But still, people move. He wears black, all black, tailored like armor. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. On the ocean-facing patio, Will Smith leans against the banister in a crisp white linen shirt that flutters with the wind. The shirt is open at the collar, sleeves cuffed. Casual perfection. He laughs at a joke from someone you don't see, but his fingers check his phone too often. Screen glowing every few minutes. A tether, a countdown to something unsaid. Jada Pinkett is inside near the bar, in conversation with Queen Latifah. Their body language is relaxed, but their eyes, occasionally deliberately, flick upstairs. To the master suite where the hallway disappears behind a closed white door. There are no security guards, no cameras, but everyone knows where the silence starts. Will walks back in. He moves through the house like a man playing his own double, smiling, greeting, charming, but his jaw is tight. The smile is clenched. Someone touches his shoulder, whispers something you can't hear, and he nods, almost robotic. He climbs the staircase alone. Upstairs, the hallway is darker, the music muffled. The walls are lined with black and white photos of icons, Sinatra, Basquiat, Nina Simone. A strange, curated gallery of legacy and possession. Then, the door. It's open just enough to leak light, just enough to suggest you were always meant to walk in. Inside, the air changes. There are no windows. Only low amber light from antique sconces. Thick curtains block out the ocean entirely. The room smells like cedarwood and cigar smoke. There's a low hum, maybe music, maybe something older, buried under the floorboards. Diddy stands near a polished table, not seated, waiting. His tone is cordial but clipped. He pours 2 drinks and offers one to Will without asking. Will hesitates, takes it, doesn't sip. There are other people here, not celebrities, men in tailored suits, not talking, watching. One of them holds a small leather folder. Another leans against a vintage stereo cabinet where something glows red behind the glass. Diddy speaks in metaphor. Always metaphor. This town moves on favors. People forget that. But I don't. You do for me, I do for you. That's how legends are made. Will doesn't respond. He's watching the man with the folder. Diddy steps closer. His voice lowers. You want longevity, right? Clean image, untouchable. That don't come for free. Then he says the phrase, the one Will would remember even after all these years. A little protection. That's all. Insurance. There's no threat in his voice, only inevitability. A camera, small, silver, quietly expensive, appears on the table. It's not pointed yet, but its presence is the punctuation at the end of an unspoken sentence. The drink in Will's hand is sweating. He places it down. No one says what the picture will be. No one says what happens if he refuses. Behind him, the door shuts. What's taken that night is not physical. It's atmospheric. A single photo. The shutter clicks only once. Not pornographic, not violent, but enough. Something suggestive, something that could be rearranged. A truth sculpted into scandal. And when it's done, it's done. A leather folder is placed in front of him. A form, legal, dry. Will doesn't read it. He signs. The ink bleeds slightly into the paper. When he leaves the room, he doesn't speak. He walks back down the stairs like a man underwater. At the bottom, Jada meets his eyes. She doesn't ask. She already knows. And somewhere in that house, the vault is sealed. And the clock, if it ever existed, is reset to 0. 3 days after the name was unsealed, the world doesn't explode. It implodes quietly, strategically, like a room being emptied of air before anyone notices they're suffocating. The first photo appears on a gossip site, usually reserved for brunch outfits and breakups. It's not glamorous. There's no red carpet, no stylist touch. Will Smith stands outside his Calabasas home, dressed in a gray hoodie and joggers, his chin lifted slightly toward the sky, not watching it, but waiting for something to fall from it. His jaw is locked. His hands are tucked into the hoodie's front pocket, clenched, hidden. The kind of photo no one reposts, but everyone downloads. It's not the image that spreads. It's the feeling. Inside studio lots and agency back rooms, the conversation shifts, not loudly, not in official memos, but in sudden absences, a quiet cancellation of a deal, a paused phone call, a meeting rescheduled indefinitely. Will's team doesn't say why, and neither do the others. But those who've worked in this town long enough recognize the choreography. The silence doesn't mean disbelief. It means they already knew. At the edge of the downtown courthouse steps, a woman in a gray wool coat leans against the brick wall with a cigarette she never lights. She's in her late 40s, face taut with exhaustion. The kind of woman who once managed 3 phones at once for a man who never said thank you. She's not giving interviews, but when she sees a familiar lawyer walk by, she says it, barely a whisper. I told him not to go to that house. And just like that, the sentence becomes legend. It floats from assistant to driver, to intern to night security, until it finds itself paraphrased in headlines that never dare name her. Back in Hollywood, the tabloids circle like birds trained to smell fear. But they don't dive in, not yet. Too dangerous, too exposed. Editors write drafts, then shelve them. Photos are marked for review, then mysteriously pulled. Legal departments flag stories as high risk. Still, something seeps through. A podcast episode opens with a cryptic mention. Some truths age like wine, others like blood in the carpet. The host doesn't say names, he doesn't have to. On TikTok, a clip resurfaces, an old interview from 2007. Will on a late-night couch telling a story about his childhood with that million-dollar grin. But this time, people notice something else. His smile cracks too soon. It falters, just for a moment, a half-second of vacancy in the eyes. The moment is rewatched, dissected, slowed down. Commenters post timestamps like coordinates. Right there, 032. That's when he remembered something. The post goes viral, but the real story is in the absence. Diddy's name trends for 48 hours, then drops. Not because the story dies, but because too many hands are working to bury it alive. No comments from Revolt, no statements from the label, no pushback, no defense, no denials. Just a mechanical stillness, like someone hit pause on a man known for never being silent. Celebrities, dozens who owe their careers to Diddy or Will or both, suddenly forget how to post. Instagram grids go dark. Twitter feeds stay clean. No emojis, no cryptic prayers, no just checking in notes. And somehow that says more than any quote ever could. A former publicist posts a single photo to their story. A raven on a wire in black and white. No caption. It's gone in 24 hours, but screenshots survive. Back in the courthouse hallway, a paralegal tells a reporter, "You can feel it. Everyone's walking like the floor might give out." And maybe it will. Because the silence isn't passive. It's curated, controlled, rehearsed. This isn't the first time people have heard the whispers. It's just the first time someone refused to shut up. The man enters through the side door, face partially shadowed by a low-brimmed cap. Jacket zipped all the way up, collar pressed high. The courtroom is hushed before he even speaks, not because of who he is, but because of what he represents. Memory, uncurated, undeleted. He doesn't give his name on record. The judge permits it, citing safety, citing precedent. But everyone still leans in when he takes the stand, as if this man, this veteran photographer from the other side of the red carpet, might finally say something the world had only dared to feel. His voice is slow, not dramatic, not broken, but thick, worn down like a camera strap that's carried too many lenses for too many years. He speaks with the cadence of a man used to being forgotten, except for the moments his work became iconic. It was December. Aspen, Ikeben Alto. He clears his throat once. I was contracted for a private gathering, holiday retreat, some music industry thing. We weren't told who would be there until we arrived. He pauses. The house was glass and cedar. You could see your own breath inside if you stood too close to the windows. Laughter never enters his voice, even when he describes the details. The valet boys dressed like ski instructors, the indoor fireplace taller than most people's homes. His tone stays neutral. They told us before the first shot, only photograph who you're told to. Don't pan, don't improvise. And whatever you do, never point your camera at Sean Combs unless he invites you to. Someone in the gallery shifts. I didn't think much of it. Celebrities are sensitive, especially when they're not performing. The photographer recounts the names he was allowed to shoot. Moguls, producers, a few artists. Will Smith was on that list. So was Jada. They were cordial, smiling. Will, he laughed a lot, at nothing. A flicker passes over Will's face, but he doesn't look up. His eyes remain fixed on the table in front of him. Still, sculpted. There was a moment, later in the evening. The photographer adjusts his grip on the railing in front of the witness stand. His fingers tremble slightly, not from nerves, but from the pull of memory. Will was outside near the fire pit. Someone came up to him. I didn't know who at the time. Short whisper, real quick. Then he was pulled, not aggressively, but pulled aside, into the snow-lit path, near the back edge of the house. He says he didn't follow, but he watched, through his lens, from the corner, unnoticed. Then he came back, a long silence, and he laughed. Loud, too loud, not real. It was the kind of laugh you use when you've just said yes to something you can't take back. The gallery doesn't murmur yet, but the silence thickens. I took a few photos, one of him walking, just as he turned around, kind of halfway, looking over his shoulder. I remember it. The judge leans in. Do you have that photograph? A pause, the photographer exhales. No. Why not? I looked for it that night, next morning. It wasn't there. The judge knits her brows. You deleted it? Number. But someone did. The statement lands like a drop pin in an empty cathedral. Even the court stenographer stops typing for half a breath. The judge leans back. Explain. We upload everything after every shoot. Backup drives, timestamp logs. There was a missing gap between 10:13 and 10:19 p.m. That file, gone. He continues carefully. No theory, no accusation, just facts. That camera had no wireless, no remote access. Only way to delete something off it is to hold it in your hand. There's a murmur now, low, uncontainable, like the courtroom itself flinched. The judge restores order with a single raised palm. Her voice is calm but colder now. Did you speak to anyone about this? No one who'd listen. He closes his eyes just once. I never forgot that night, not because of what I saw, but because of what I didn't. Will's fingers tighten slightly on the edge of the desk in front of him, but his eyes remain down. He doesn't shake his head, doesn't blink. He just breathes, slowly, measured, like each inhale carries 1,000 unsaid words. The photographer steps down. The courtroom exhales. and somewhere a missing photograph continues to burn. Not in pixels, but in memory. He walks to the stand without ceremony. No guards flanking him. No high-profile attorney to clear his path. Just Will. Not the movie star. Not the Oscar winner. Not the red carpet charm. Just a man, thin in presence, as if the years have scraped something from him. The courtroom doesn't erupt. It doesn't even stir. It just holds its breath. Will sits down. The microphone waits. The judge doesn't ask him to swear in again. He already has. The silence becomes the cushion beneath his voice. I'm not here to explain. I think the explaining almost killed me. He pauses, not for effect, but because the words themselves require effort. His fingers interlock on the stand. His wedding ring is gone. He hasn't worn it in some time. People think this kind of thing starts with an offer, a threat, a camera. It doesn't. It starts with charm, with warmth, with somebody making you feel seen. A beat. His voice isn't loud. If anything, the lack of projection makes it more intimate. I met Sean in '99. I was flying. Music, movies, the kind of momentum that doesn't let you stop long enough to ask if you're still yourself. And then he steps into your life like gravity, makes it feel like he knows what's next. He doesn't look at anyone as he speaks. Not the jury, not the gallery, not even the judge. He didn't ask for much. At first, a favor, a party, a weekend trip, always with people, always with noise. You think you're just playing the game. Will leans back slightly as though remembering costs something. But there was a room, 2011, Midtown Manhattan. I remember the velvet curtains, thick, heavy, the kind that closed too well. There was one chair, one. His hands tremble slightly, but he doesn't stop. He sat in the corner, didn't offer me a seat, just said, "There are things bigger than you, Will, bigger than your little ideas of freedom." The courtroom doesn't breathe. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't want to know. I nodded. That was enough for him. He swallows, not hard, but visibly. You start noticing things after that. Hotel rooms where the lamps are never quite in the right place. People you didn't call showing up. Conversations that end too quickly when you enter. And then you stop noticing, because noticing is dangerous. A low shifting sound in the gallery. Someone adjusting in their seat, startled by their own emotion. The judge doesn't interrupt. There were years I don't remember fully, not because of anything chemical, but because memory becomes political. You start editing your own past, cutting scenes, dubbing over truths. Will exhales deeply, eyes flickering just once toward the public seats. They always say I'm composed, calm, a gentleman, but you learn that early when you're afraid. Politeness becomes armor. His gaze drops. My son, Jaden, once asked me why I never said no to Sean. We were on a trip. He was young, maybe 11. Diddy had called, asked us to swing by a party. I said yes. Jaden looked at me, just said, "But you don't want to go." He pauses for the first time, truly overwhelmed. That hit me harder than anything I've made, anything I've lost, because I realized my child saw it too, that I wasn't choosing my life. Will straightens a bit, as if anchoring himself in the moment. I know what people will say, that it was just power, that I let it happen, that I benefited, and they're not wrong. It wasn't blackmail, it was architecture. He lets that sentence hang, like a blade suspended in air. I was inside his design. Now the room is utterly still, not paralyzed, reverent. There were photos, conversations, things I didn't know were being recorded. But it wasn't about leverage. It was about obedience, conditioning. I'd walk into a room and know who I had to be, what face to wear, what story to deny. And that becomes your skin. A tear slides down his cheek. He doesn't wipe it. He doesn't acknowledge it. There are worse stories than mine. Stories with bruises and nights that won't end. Mine was quieter, psychological, architectural. But it still rearranged the bones inside me. You survive by forgetting. The judge finally speaks, voice soft. Why now? Will smiles, but it's not a smile anyone recognizes. Because he stopped calling, and I didn't miss it. He nods as if realizing the truth only now, with all of them watching. Because sometimes silence is the first breath you take when the drowning ends. He leans back, finished. No one moves. Not a juror, not a reporter, not even the guards. It's not just that Will spoke. It's that every word felt like it had waited 20 years to be allowed out. For 2 months, he never missed a hearing. Sat silent, sure, smiling sometimes like a man who knew the rules better than the judge. He wore tailored suits, shoes with soles untouched by dirt. The court schedule bent to accommodate his travel, his status, his team's excuses. He was even here in control of the room, until he wasn't. The day he doesn't show, no one breathes until the second hand lands on the hour. Then a whisper, subtle, slithering, ripples across the benches. Someone checks their phone, another checks the corridor. Diddy, Sean Combs, is not coming. There is no explanation read into the record, just an empty chair with his name on the docket and a legal team that enters not as a unit but as fragments. One junior associate walks ahead, her eyes red. Another lawyer, the one with the gold tie who once scoffed through Will's testimony, sits with his hands folded like he's waiting for permission to exhale. Midway through proceedings, a folder is handed from one lawyer to another. A quiet argument brews under breath. Then, the lead counsel stands, requests to step out, does not return. No statement, just absence. Later that night, the tabloids don't run a headline, because nothing official has broken. But Twitter stirs with amateur camera footage. A shaky clip. Soho House, Manhattan. A man, hood up, surrounded by 2 bodyguards instead of 4. Eyes to the pavement. The person who filmed it didn't say Diddy, they whispered it, as if naming him still felt dangerous. The walk tells the truth first. His body moves like someone balancing weight. Not literal, but imagined. As if he's afraid the sidewalk will give out beneath him. Not hiding, not retreating, calculating. And even that now seems to falter. A day later, a staff source, not quoted, not named, tells a reporter from the cut, he's not answering the door, but the lights are on all night. In rooms where power once echoed, now the silence clings like mildew. Gone are the Instagram lives, the cigars, the toasts, the gospel-tinged declarations of rebirth. The motivational quotes that once veiled a mythology of control. His last post was 3 weeks ago, a black and white shot of the sky, captionless. The comments now? Not accusations, but ellipses. ... As if the world is waiting for something it already knows. Old headlines begin to resurface. Not freshly written, just remembered. Party staff fired mid-shift. Artists dropped without explanation. Lawsuits settled under seal. A 2003 interview where a personal assistant flinched when his name was spoken. Recollection becomes ammunition. Not new facts, just shadows gathering shape. Music blogs begin to unlist sponsored posts. Industry allies go quiet, not with condemnation, but with absence. A name once spoken with reverence now falls from sentences like a forgotten password. A former collaborator posts a cryptic lyric, "Some kings don't fall, they vanish." It's not just the legal strategy collapsing, it's the mythology. Diddy was never just a man. He was momentum, noise, heat, the way champagne caught light in his presence. He didn't dominate a room, he redesigned it. And now, he is no longer in it. The predator's greatest weapon was never fear. It was narrative. To control what people said about him, about themselves, about each other. And now even that is slipping. His team denies nothing. They release no press statement, no formal response. But one source from his circle texts a single line to a Rolling Stone contributor. The music is off. That's how you know it's real. Inside the courtroom, someone quietly removes a name placard from his usual seat. Not ceremonially, not symbolically, just because it doesn't feel like it belongs there anymore. And still, no denial. No declaration of innocence. Just a man who once controlled rooms, now hiding in one. But silence does not protect him anymore. Not when the walls themselves remember. The first ripple is subtle, almost imperceptible. A single pixel shift on Instagram, a forgotten tag undone. Then another, and another. Slowly, the narratives realign. Beyoncé removes Diddy from an old black and white photo. The image lingered online for years. The two standing shoulder to shoulder, smiles effortless. She taps edit, removes his tag, then leaves nothing behind but a blank space. No explanation, just absence, and in its wake, curiosity. Not long after, Jay-Z posts a story, stark, black background, white text that reads, "Truth has a schedule." No mention of names, no hashtags, no fanfare. But the tone splices through the noise. It's not a diss track. It's a timestamp. Digital kinesthetic energy. Proof that even the titans are watching. Taraji P. Henson then quietly deletes an innocuous 2015 comment on Diddy's photo. A playful that's now gone. No statement, no words. But fans notice. Screenshots emerge. Deleting old comments? They ask. The cultural translators know it means distance. Unfollowed not from animus, but from necessity. Meanwhile, a former Revolt Music employee, never named, never interviewed, tweets exactly 6 words. "We were told not to ask." No explanation, no thread. Just those words posted, deleted, reposted, screenshot, redeleted. Like a ghost note in a melody that refuses to be forgotten. The tweet echoes across subreddits, becoming mantra for a generation of insiders. Beneath the surface, algorithms shift. Spotify playlists once Diddy curated suddenly vanish. Spotify's Made in America archival playlists smell of clickbait now. YouTube recommendations move, less nostalgia, more investigative docuseries. Media outlets shift slots. Weekend morning shows now assign airtime to legal analysts, not red carpet retrospectives. A cultural pendulum swings, slowly but unmistakably. This isn't cancel culture, it's reckoning. A generation trained to protect gatekeepers finds the gates slowly closing. A lion king loses his roar. The empire does not just crumble, it recalibrates. Headline writers note the shift. A-list celebrities exercise caution. Due diligence dogs every deal. Soft walkaway, but they miss the point. They're focusing on logos, not gravity. In the background, legal news outlets reframe their coverage. They stroll away from gossip into patterns, NDAs, hush funds, decades of structural leverage. No sensationalism, just cold documentation. They ask, how much of fame is built on silence? Podcasts revise their episodes. A joint interview run at an Ivy League law school spotlights asymmetrical relationships in entertainment. Faculty discuss architecture of influence. A finance newsletter includes Diddy and Newswatch, not for his dollar signs, but for what lies behind the mythos. The cultural tectonic plates have shifted. Even outside social media, prints tell the story. Vogue crafts a report on celebrity network ethics. Rolling Stone writes a features piece titled, "When the Fourth Estate Finally Listens." Broadcast news speaks not in scoops, but in syllogisms. If he did it, so could others. In Hollywood parking lots, you overhear assistant whisper, "It's like no one can even say the name anymore." Their voice drops, and the name slips from the sentence. On the courthouse steps, where once fans shouted for selfies, silence now reigns. Reporters stare, but don't whisper his name. Their pens hover, their thoughts weighty. In odorless conference rooms, power dynamics falter. Executives book meetings so discreetly they take place in Zoom rooms with no paused recording. Handshakes are no longer enough. Every move uphill becomes tactical now. Social media is forensic. Lawyers are writers. Agents are PR analysts. A new ecosystem emerges. Caution replacing charisma, restraint supplanting swagger. Those born into the system adapt. Those who built it stumble. Because when the empire trembles, the map redraws around it. The timeline has turned. And now even silence is a statement. A hush settles before the storm. The courtroom, once hushed in reverence, now hums with expectation. It's the morning after headlines call the case a reckoning, but here within these walls, it's anatomy underway. The trial isn't just unfolding, it's mapping a system. A line of witnesses takes shape. A former driver, chosen for his discretion, a talent manager, prized for memory, and a digital forensics expert, wielding cold data. They don't come to shock, they come to chart. The driver rises first. Nearly silent in demeanor, he paints an unsettling image. A black SUV cruising through Beverly Hills estates late at night. The house Diddy's radiated quiet threats. He dropped Mr. Smith off, but never left until Mr. Combs said so, the driver recalls. Every detail is measured, recorded. License plate numbers, timestamps, the hush-hush of whispered phone calls that echoed like rehearsed code. Then the talent manager. A woman of glances, not gossip. Her testimony builds emotional resonance. Not that she was coerced, but that the mechanics of control mirrored in every meeting. Rescheduled flights with vague reasons. Contracts revised after late-night phone calls. Strategic friendships, she calls them. Relationships logged in calendars, flagged as non-negotiable calls after 9 p.m. A ritual disguised as connection. The final witness, a digital forensics expert. His demeanor is stark, eyes too bright for emotions. He projects a glowing screen, revealing a calendar where each entry in 2005, 2008, 2011 circles Will's name, appended with words, call, check-in, dinner, sometimes crossed by insurance talk. The screen scrolls, all logs unchanged until 2012, when a sudden drop-off begins. A new pattern emerges. Then enters the estate intern, carrying a 3D floor plan of Combs' Beverly Hills mansion. Not a luxury home, a labyrinth. One room stands out. Near the top right, drawn in bold lines, is a small, nondescript chamber locked from both sides. Walls appear soundproofed. No windows, no escape. The expert glances at it. This matches logs of meetings in 2013 and 2014, always one person in, one person out. He taps the space with a laser pointer. Every entry lists a photograph taken, not a portrait, a meeting proof. Evidence. The courtroom leans in. Finally, the stylist, someone who worked in Combs' orbit, steps forward. She offers a financial spreadsheet, her hand trembling as she slides it across the table. The log records recurring payments labeled Client Discretion Allowance or Dinners Confidential. 3-digit sums become 4-digit hush money month after month, unremarked to payroll, but noted in personal ledgers. She speaks quietly, funding as testimony. The gallery takes notes. Each number is a notch in the blueprint. From scandal to system, no thunderous revelations. Instead, a slow excavation of infrastructure. What began as accusation turns into architecture. The judge pauses. The lawyers don't object. They listen. Finally, the judge's voice breaks like a record skipping. We now have witness testimony, digital logs, financial transactions, building schematics. I hereby order this record escalated for federal review. A hush. The courtroom exhales. Will sits motionless, arms folded around himself. The morning's light filters through high windows. But his face hasn't moved, not until the judge pronounces federal jurisdiction. Then, ever so slightly, he exhales. It's virtually silent, but it resonates. A release, an acknowledgement. It's more than strategy, it's reckoning. Outside, news wires flash. Feds take over Combs' case. Social media amplifies. Number sign blueprints of control. Public pressure surges. People demand transparency beyond the court diary. But back inside, Will's gaze goes forward. Not triumphant, not relieved, determined. Because the structure is exposed, the fortress glimpsed, and maybe, just maybe, the light can reach every hidden room. The courtroom feels heavier, suffocating like a storm about to break. Outside, an unyielding tension threads through the air. Charge, waiting for release. Inside, the walls seem to lean inward, closing in on the center of this crumbling empire. A legal gambit, rejected Diddy's legal team files a motion to dismiss the case. a desperate attempt to halt the avalanche. The paperwork slides across the judge's bench with the weight of a last gasp. The judge's gaze, sharp as shattered glass, cuts through the motion, denying it without hesitation. It is a defeat, but one quietly buried under the sterile language of the courtroom. Whispers in the dark. Financial shadows. Almost simultaneously, TMZ breaks the news. Combs is under federal investigation for financial crimes unrelated, but shadowing the already crumbling case. The headlines flash with urgency. A lion not only wounded, but cornered. Old footage resurfaces. Kim Porter's interview from years past. Her words long ignored, now replayed with newfound gravity. Her tone is somber, layered with meaning only hindsight can parse. Listeners lean in. The silence around her words speaks louder than any accusation. A silent storm. Jada's presence. Outside the courthouse, a figure moves like a shadow against the daylight. Jada Pinkett Smith, draped head to toe in black. No smiles, no words. Her every step is deliberate, heavy with unspoken history. Her sunglasses slice through the late afternoon gloom, a shield, not a fashion statement. Their armor, an emotional fortress constructed from years of endured storms. Reporters murmur, but she does not break her silence. The final scene, Will's solitude. The day wanes. The courtroom empties. Will Smith walks out alone. No entourage. No flashing cameras chasing him like vultures. The silence is deafening, a void where spectacle once thrived. A lone reporter calls out, voice tentative. "What broke you?" Will stops. The air thickens around him. He turns slowly, eyes steady, voice calm but resolute. "Nothing broke me. That's why I can speak." In that moment, everything shifts. The facade of invincibility fades. The predator's power crumbles, replaced by raw human resilience. The weight of years of silence lifts, replaced by a voice unyielding. The world watches, but now they listen. This final collapse is not just about legal defeat. It's about the human truth emerging from shadows. The ones who stayed silent too long, and the ones brave enough to break free. The screen flickers into life. A grainy, nostalgic flashback to a 2008 red carpet. Will Smith stands poised, a practiced smile etched on his face. The flash bulbs pop rhythmically like distant gunfire, casting fractured light across polished tuxedos and shimmering gowns. Nearby, Sean Combs steps forward, his hand landing on Will's shoulder. A gesture light as a feather, but weighted like iron. Their eyes don't meet. The moment pulses with silence, a silent conversation beneath the surface. A river of unspoken truths flowing through smiles and rehearsed camaraderie. The whispered truth. A voice breaks the stillness, low and deliberate. Not a narrator, but a quiet witness. You never see the moment fear begins, but you feel it long after the lights are off. The words hang in the air, fragile as spun glass, settling like dust on memories we try to forget but never quite escape. The empty chair. Cut to a stark courtroom scene. A single chair, empty. Its leather creaks faintly in the hush of an unseen breeze. This chair, once filled with judgment, accusation, and silence, now sits abandoned, an echo of absence, a testament to stories half told. The camera lingers, framing the chair as a symbol, not just of vacancy, but of the weight left behind by those who cannot leave. The screen darkens except for a faint whispering voice, soft, bruised, carrying the chill of unsaid things. Because some rooms we never speak about are the ones we never leave. The line echoes, reverberating into silence, leaving the audience suspended between memory and the unrelenting pull of what remains hidden.